I watched as my friend Carol hugged my son Tyler tightly. "We're going to have so much fun tonight, aren't we, buddy?" she said, ruffling his brown hair. Tyler nodded excitedly, already eyeing the board games Carol had brought. I grabbed my purse and car keys, heading toward the door. As I turned to wave goodbye, seeing Tyler's happy face brought back the phone call that had started this whole mess 2 weeks ago. "Elsie, your father and I have decided to make the anniversary party adults only," Mom had said bluntly after our usual small talk. "So you'll need to leave Tyler at home. We want to have a sophisticated evening, no children running around." "But Mom, Tyler is 7 now. He behaves really well at gatherings, you know that." "I'm sorry, but we've already told all the guests about this condition, no exceptions." I'd paced around my kitchen, phone pressed to my ear. Does this rule apply to Megan too? Is she leaving her kids at home? Megan, my older sister by 3 years, had 3 children aged 4 to 10. Mom had paused then, a bit too long. "Of course it applies to everyone. Megan's children too." "That doesn't seem fair, Mom. I'm a single parent, it's not that easy for me to find childcare." "You'll figure it out, you always do." I'd sighed. "Fine, I'll find someone to watch Tyler." Now, standing at the door watching Carol and Tyler set up a game of Monopoly, I wondered why I'd even agreed to go. Ever since my divorce from Greg 3 years ago, family gatherings had become increasingly uncomfortable. "Have fun," I called, forcing a smile before closing the door behind me. I walked to my car, a 6-year-old Honda that had seen better days. In the back seat was a wrapped box containing an expensive robot vacuum cleaner. My parents had complained for months about how hard it was getting to clean their big house. I'd saved for 3 months to buy it, even though I could barely afford my own bills these days. The 20-minute drive to my parents' suburban home gave me time to think. I'd always felt a strange imbalance in how my parents treated Megan and me, but I'd chalked it up to my own insecurities. Sure, they seemed more excited about Megan's achievements and spent more time with her kids, but I figured that was just because she had 3 children to my 1. I pulled into the driveway of my parents' 2-story colonial house, noting the line of cars already parked along the street. Taking a deep breath, I grabbed the heavy gift from the back seat and headed to the front door. When I walked in, the house was filled with chatter and laughter. About 20 people milled around the living room and kitchen, aunts, uncles, family friends, all dressed in their semi-formal best. And just as Mom had promised, there wasn't a child in sight. "Elsie," finally, Mom rushed over, looking elegant in a blue dress, her gray-streaked hair styled perfectly. Instead of taking the gift I was struggling to hold, she grabbed my arm. "Come help me in the kitchen. We need to get the appetizers out." "Can I say hello to everyone first?" I asked, nodding toward Aunt Linda who I hadn't seen in months. "There'll be time for that later, the food is more important right now." I set my gift with the others on a side table. "Where's Megan? Shouldn't she be helping too?" Mom waved her hand dismissively. "She's running late." "She'll be here soon, now come on." I followed Mom into the kitchen, feeling that familiar sting. Of course Megan was late, and of course it was fine. If I had been late, I'd never hear the end of it. For the next 30 minutes, I arranged cheese platters, filled water glasses, and set out napkins while Mom directed me like a drill sergeant. Through the kitchen doorway, I could see relatives laughing and catching up, something I was apparently not allowed to do. Finally, Dad called everyone to the dining room. My father, still handsome at 65 with his full head of silver hair, stood at the head of the table. He'd always been quieter than Mom, letting her make most of the decisions, including how to treat their daughters. I took my assigned seat, noticing that 2 places next to my parents remained empty, clearly reserved for Megan and her husband Dan. As we all settled in, Dad began to say a few words, thanking everyone for coming to celebrate their milestone anniversary. Just as people started making toasts and my uncle was about to present his gift, the front door burst open. And there was Megan, her husband Dan behind her, and all 3 of their children, Emma, Jackson, and little Lily, tumbling in behind them. My jaw dropped. I looked toward my parents, expecting shock or at least mild disapproval. Instead, Mom jumped up from her seat with a delighted, "There they are." She rushed over to hug each grandchild, cooing and fussing over them. Dad beamed proudly. I sat frozen in my chair, watching as Megan and Dan took their places at the table as if nothing was amiss. Mom quickly set up a small table in the corner of the living room for the kids, bringing them plates piled high with food. From where I sat, I could hear Megan's children shouting and giggling, making more noise than Tyler ever would have. And yet, my parents just smiled indulgently in their direction. I gripped my water glass so tightly I thought it might shatter. All I could think was, why does she get to break the rules? Why are her kids allowed when mine isn't? But I said nothing. I smiled through gritted teeth, ate the dry chicken my mother had overcooked, and waited for the right moment to get answers. When everyone finished eating dinner, there was a short break before dessert. I saw my chance and stood up, my legs shaky with anger. I caught my parents' eyes and motioned them to follow me to the hallway, away from the other guests. "What's going on?" I asked, keeping my voice low. "Why are Megan's kids here when you specifically told me not to bring Tyler?" My parents exchanged uncomfortable glances. Mom opened her mouth to speak, but before she could answer, Megan appeared beside us, champagne glass in hand. "What's the problem, Elsie?" she asked with that smug smile I knew too well. "I'm trying to understand why the no kids rule apparently doesn't apply to you." Megan let out a short laugh, "Because they made an exception for me, obviously. The rules don't apply to me the same way they do to you." I stared at her, then turned back to my parents. "Is that true? Tyler is well behaved. He would have sat quietly through dinner. Why wasn't he allowed to come?" Mom finally sighed. "It's just, Megan's children they're special to us." "What?" The word came out as a whisper. Megan stepped closer, her voice low enough that only we could hear. "It's always been pretty obvious they love my kids more than they love Tyler. You should just accept it already." I turned to my parents, waiting for them to jump in, to defend their love for their only grandson. But Mom just nodded slightly, and Dad remained silent. The room seemed to tilt around me. All these years, I'd told myself I was imagining the favoritism, that I was being paranoid or overly sensitive. But here it was, out in the open at last. Without another word, I walked back to the dining room, grabbed my purse, and headed for the door. My throat felt tight, like I might cry or scream if I opened my mouth. I simply walked out the door, got in my car, and drove home. When I arrived, Carol was surprised to see me back so early. Tyler was already in his dinosaur pajamas, getting ready for a movie before bed. After I put Tyler to bed with an extra long story, I came back to the living room where Carol was waiting with 2 glasses of wine. "So what happened?" she asked, handing me a glass. I told her everything, about Megan's kids being there, about the confrontation, and my mother's awful confirmation. "Wow," Carol said when I finished, "I don't even know what to say." "What do you want to do?" I sipped my wine, the question echoing in my head, "I need to think." After Carol left, I couldn't sleep. I sat on my couch in the dark, memories flooding back one after another, all the signs I'd ignored over the years. When Tyler was born, my parents visited for exactly 1 day. When each of Megan's kids was born, they stayed for a week, cooking and cleaning and doting on the babies. Anytime I asked them to babysit Tyler, they had an excuse. Dad's back was acting up, Mom had a hair appointment, they were too tired. But they regularly took Megan's kids for entire weekends. The worst was during my divorce. I was drowning in legal meetings and court appearances because Greg was fighting me for every cent. I begged my parents to watch Tyler, who was only 3 at the time. "We can do it," Mom had said, "but we'll need to be compensated for our time." I'd been shocked. "You want me to pay you to watch your grandson?" "Childcare is expensive these days," Dad had added, "we're on a fixed income." So I paid them, the going rate for a professional babysitter in our area, which they had researched and presented to me. Meanwhile, they regularly watched Megan's kids for free. There was the time Tyler got the flu. I couldn't miss work, I'd already taken too many days off dealing with divorce proceedings. When I called my parents, Mom said, "We'll need double the usual rate if he's sick. We can't risk catching something at our age." And the Christmas gifts, Megan's kids always got expensive electronics, clothes from trendy stores, and the latest toys. Tyler got practical items, socks, educational books, a cheap watch last year that broke within a week. How had I not seen it clearly before? Or rather, how had I allowed myself to keep making excuses for them? And then there was the money. 3 years ago, Mom had called me in tears. "The property taxes went up again," she'd said. "And with your father's medication costs, we just can't make ends meet anymore." I'd immediately offered to help. "How much do you need?" "Maybe $1,000 a month," she'd suggested tentatively. "Just until we get back on our feet." 3 years later, I was still sending them $1,000 every month, no questions asked. Money that could have gone into Tyler's college fund. Money that could have allowed me to fix the leak in my bathroom ceiling or replace my aging car. And Megan, she was always calling with some financial emergency too. Her car needed repairs. One of the kids needed dental work not covered by insurance. She and Dan wanted to take the kids to Disney but were a little short. By morning, I had made some decisions. The first thing I did was grab my phone and open my banking app. I found the recurring transfer to my parents' account and canceled it. Next, I texted my boss, "Remember all that vacation time I've been accumulating? I'd like to take 2 weeks, starting as soon as possible." Steve texted back almost immediately, "About time. You've earned it, how's next Monday sound?" I smiled for the first time in what felt like days. Then I opened my laptop and started searching for vacation packages to Hawaii. Tyler had been begging to see real volcanoes since his dinosaur phase began, and I'd always told him someday. Why not now? Within an hour, I had booked flights and a beachfront hotel in Maui for the following week. It cost nearly all of my savings, but for once, I didn't feel guilty about spending money on ourselves. When Tyler woke up, I made him chocolate chip pancakes, a special treat for weekends only, usually. "Guess what?" I said as he drenched his stack in maple syrup. "How would you like to go see real volcanoes in Hawaii?" He launched himself at me, sticky hands and all, hugging me tightly. "This is the best day ever." The days leading up to our vacation passed quickly. My parents called several times, but I let their calls go to voicemail. I wasn't ready to talk to them yet. I needed this time away to think clearly. 5 days after the anniversary party, my phone lit up with Mom's number while I was making dinner. I ignored it as usual, but then she called again immediately. And again. By the 4th call, I was worried something might be wrong, so I answered, "Hello? Elsie, did you forget something?" Mom's voice was sharp, no greeting. I paused, mentally checking my calendar. "No, I don't think so." "The money, Elsie, the transfer didn't go through this month." So that's what this was about. Not concern for me, not an apology for what happened at the party, just the money. "I didn't forget," I said quietly, "I canceled the transfer. I'm not sending money anymore." "You can't do that," her voice rose in panic, "we're counting on that money for our bills." "I'm sure Megan will help you out," I said, surprised by how calm I felt. "Ask her. She's the one with the special children you love so much." "Elsie, that's not fair, you know we love." "Don't," I cut her off, "don't say you love Tyler the same way. We both know it's not true. And while you're talking to Megan, tell her I won't be helping her out financially anymore either." I hung up, feeling a strange mixture of guilt and relief. My phone immediately started ringing again, but I turned it off. The next day, we left for Hawaii. As our plane took off, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. For 2 weeks, it would be just Tyler and me, with no family drama, no financial burdens, no painful reminders of where I stood with my parents. Hawaii was everything we'd hoped for and more. Tyler was fascinated by the volcanoes, thrilled by the ocean waves, and enchanted by the luau dancers. I took hundreds of photos of his smiling face and found myself smiling just as much. We were having breakfast by the pool on our 3rd day when my phone, which I'd finally turned back on, started buzzing nonstop with text notifications. First from Mom. "We can't believe you'd abandon us like this, after all we've done for you." Then Dad, "Your mother is very upset, you need to call her right away." Megan, "What the hell, Elsie? Mom says you cut them off, they're your parents." I put the phone down without responding. The barrage of texts and calls continued throughout our vacation. My parents alternated between guilt trips, angry demands, and pleas for understanding. Megan's messages grew increasingly hostile, calling me selfish and heartless. I stopped reading them after the 5th day. Instead, I focused on building sandcastles with Tyler, teaching him to snorkel, and watching the sunset over the ocean each night. "This is the best trip ever," Tyler said on our last evening, as we sat on the beach eating shave ice. "Can we do this every year?" "Maybe not Hawaii every year," I laughed, "but yes, we'll take more trips together. I promise." When we returned home, tanned and refreshed, I had almost forgotten about the family situation. That illusion lasted less than 24 hours. I had just finished unpacking our suitcases the next afternoon when there was a loud knock at the door. Looking through the peephole, I saw my parents and Megan standing in the hallway of my apartment building. I opened the door partway, keeping the chain latched. "What are you doing here?" "We need to talk," Dad said, his voice firm but his eyes nervous. "I don't think we have anything to discuss." Megan pushed forward. "Elsie, honey, we've thought about what happened, and we realize we were wrong. We shouldn't have let Megan bring her children to the party when we told you not to bring Tyler." "We're really sorry," Dad added. "Can we come in and talk about this?" I might have believed them if Megan hadn't rolled her eyes behind their backs. This wasn't sincere regret, this was just about getting the money flowing again. "I don't think so," I said. "You're only here because I stopped paying you. If I hadn't done that, you'd never have acknowledged there was even a problem." "That's not true," Mom protested, but her eyes slid away from mine. "Look," Megan cut in, "just grow up and start helping them again. They need the money, and you know it." "And what about you, Megan? Are you helping them financially?" She crossed her arms. "I have 3 kids to support." "And I have one," I replied. "One that I'm saving for now, because he matters to me even if he doesn't matter to his grandparents." Mom's face hardened. "If this is how you want to be, fine. But I'm going to let the whole family know how you've turned your back on us. How you've decided money is more important than family." I almost laughed at the irony. "Do whatever you need to do, Mom. I really don't care anymore." "You'll regret this," Megan hissed as I started to close the door. "No," I said, looking her directly in the eyes, "I really won't. And if you all don't stop calling and showing up uninvited, I'll file a harassment complaint with the police." I shut the door firmly, turned the deadbolt, and leaned against it. I could hear them arguing in the hallway for a few minutes before they finally left. Tyler emerged from his bedroom, where he'd been playing with the souvenirs we'd brought back. "Was that Grandma and Grandpa? Are they mad at us?" I knelt down to his level. "They're upset, but not because of anything you did. It's grown-up stuff, and you don't need to worry about it." He nodded seriously. "Okay, can we have pizza for dinner?" I smiled and ruffled his hair. "Absolutely." That night, after Tyler was asleep, I sat down with my laptop and created a new savings account specifically for his college fund. Into it, I transferred the $1,000 I would have sent to my parents. 4 months have passed since that confrontation at my door. 4 months of no family dinners, no holiday gatherings, no casual phone calls asking how my day went. 4 months of peace. My cousin Rachel called about 5 months after the door incident. "Your mom is telling everyone you abandoned them," she said. "That you cut them off financially without warning and now they can't pay their bills." "Did she mention that I've been giving them $1,000 a month for 3 years?" I asked. "Or that they paid me nothing but demanded payment to watch their own grandson?" Rachel was silent for a moment. "No, she left that part out." "So what really happened, Elsie?" I told her everything, the anniversary party, the favoritism, the years of unequal treatment. When I finished, Rachel sighed heavily. "I'm so sorry, I had no idea it was that bad." I mean, I noticed they seemed more excited about Megan's kids, but I thought it was just because she had more of them. That's what I told myself too, for a long time. Rachel hesitated before continuing. Your mom got a part-time job at the library. Your dad's cutting back on his golf games. They're managing, but it's definitely an adjustment for them. I absorbed this information, surprised at the twinge of guilt I felt. And Megan? From what I hear, she and Dan had to cancel their annual beach vacation. Apparently, they're all blaming you for their financial troubles. Sounds like they're all learning some valuable life lessons, I said, trying to sound indifferent. But it wasn't my concern anymore. I couldn't make their financial problems my responsibility again. I used the extra money I now had to fix up our apartment, new paint in the living room, a better mattress for Tyler, the bathroom ceiling repair I'd been putting off for 2 years. I started contributing more to my 401k and adding steadily to Tyler's college fund. We took weekend trips to the zoo, the science museum, the water park 2 towns over. Small adventures that made Tyler's eyes light up the way they had in Hawaii. I even started dating again, casually, just coffee or dinner while Tyler was at a friend's house or with Carol. Nothing serious yet, but it felt good to remember I was more than just a mom and a daughter. Last week, I came across an old photo album while cleaning out the hall closet. Inside were pictures from my childhood, birthdays, holidays, family vacations. Looking at them now, I noticed something I'd never seen before. In almost every picture, I was reaching toward my parents, a hand outstretched, leaning in their direction, always seeking connection. They were almost always turned slightly away, focused on something else. Usually Megan. There was one photo that hit me particularly hard. My 5th birthday party. I was blowing out candles on a cake, but neither of my parents was looking at me. They were both watching Megan, who was reaching for a present that wasn't hers to open. Tyler found me sitting on the floor surrounded by photos. Can I see the pictures? Sure, I pulled him onto my lap and showed him photos of me as a little girl, but I put away the birthday party one. Some realizations are too heavy for 7-year-old shoulders. Yesterday, I ran into my dad at the grocery store. It was the first time I'd seen any of my family members since the confrontation at my door. He looked older somehow, the lines in his face deeper. We stood awkwardly in the produce section, neither sure what to say. How are you? He finally asked. Good, we're good, how about you and Mom? Managing, he shifted uncomfortably. Your mother's working at the library now. I heard. She doesn't like it much, says the supervisor is too demanding. I almost smiled. Mom had always hated being told what to do. That's too bad. Megan helps us out a little now, not as much as you did, though. I guess that was supposed to make me feel guilty. It didn't. How's Tyler? Dad asked, surprising me. He's great, top of his class in math, and he joined a soccer team this spring. Dad nodded. That's good, he was always a smart kid. Was this the first compliment he'd ever given about my son? I couldn't remember another. Well, Dad said, checking his watch, I should get going. Your mother's waiting in the car. Right, tell her I said hello. He hesitated, then asked, do you think you might come by sometime? Maybe bring Tyler for a visit? The old me would have jumped at this olive branch, desperate for any sign of acceptance. But I wasn't that person anymore. I don't think we're ready for that yet, Dad. He nodded slowly. I understand. I wasn't sure he did, but it didn't really matter. My peace of mind wasn't dependent on his understanding anymore. Take care, I said, and meant it. Despite everything, I didn't wish them ill. I just couldn't keep setting myself on fire to keep them warm. As I finished checking out and headed to my car, I felt lighter somehow. Seeing my dad hadn't reopened old wounds the way I'd feared it might. Instead, it had confirmed what I already knew. I'd made the right decision for Tyler and for myself. I don't know if I'll ever fully reconcile with my parents or Megan. Maybe someday, if they can truly acknowledge the hurt they caused and make genuine amends. But I'm not holding my breath, and I'm not putting my life on hold waiting for that day to come. For now, I'm focused on building the best life I can for Tyler and myself. He deserves a mother who values herself enough to stand up against unfair treatment. And I deserve to put my own oxygen mask on first, as they say. Life is too short to spend it chasing approval that never comes. Too precious to waste on people who can't or won't love you the way you deserve to be loved. I've finally learned that lesson, and painful as it was, I'm grateful for it. Because now Tyler and I are free to create our own family traditions, free to surround ourselves with people who genuinely care about us, free to live and love without conditions or comparisons.